Roselli Northern supports upstate New York construction with over 400 employees, 250 trucks, 9 ready-mix plants, 4 blacktop plants, and 40 aggregate mines. But their most important number is your bottom line. Contact them today to see why Roselli Northern has been the choice for contractors and project managers across upstate New York since 1929.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another back-to-back Victory Monday here on Bills Weekly on FingerLinksLondon.com. I am Paul Russo, joined as always by Jim Sinicropi and Kyle Evans. We'll be recapping and discussing the Bills' big win at home against the Cowboys in Week 15. We'll take a look at the updated playoff picture as all the AFC action of the weekend is over and preview Week 16, Saturday night in Los Angeles against the Chargers. So, guys, Victory Monday is always nice. Kind of gives a nice little, I don't know. I don't like talking down when, we have a podcast. So it's always nice kind of in the positive light of things, especially in my mind, a game like yesterday and what ended up being football weather and a classic football game of a certain era.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday literally looked like bully ball. The Bills just controlled the entire game, ran the ball as much as they wanted and however they wanted. Seemed like every time you looked up, they were gaining 8 to 10 yards per play. And it was the James Cook game. I mean, Josh Allen basically kind of had another bye week because he didn't have to do a whole lot. So, yeah, just very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. You look at Josh Allen here, 7 of 15, 94 yards and a touchdown passing. But it was kind of, obviously the James Cook game. We'll get into that, but,
James Cook, 277 total yards from scrimmage. The Bills had 266. It was like James Cook was all they needed. Another great game from Gabe Davis.
Well, it wasn't exactly not to go full defend mode here on Gabe Davis, but it's not like anybody, I guess, outside of literally outside of James Cook, Stephon Diggs, and Ty Johnson were able to haul in their targets for receptions yesterday. So, I do agree. It's another quote unquote no show from Davis in a way, but at the same token, Kincaid didn't bring in anything, neither did Dawson Knox or any of the other targets yesterday. So, kind of tough there, but it was interesting. I thought. Rained off the bat, kind of petered out there as we got through halftime and picked up really in a big way towards the end of the game. And you could kind of tell, and it helped out too in my mind, the Bills. Obviously, Kyle, you mentioned, right, the bully ball element of it. Really, look, not to go full cliche here, but game won and lost in the trenches, and the Bills, frankly, dominated that, especially on the offensive side of things, and carried over. James Cook had over 100 rushing yards in the first half alone, even.
Defense
it was just
too.
huge.
I mean, it was both sides of the ball.
Yeah, how about this? The Cowboys had 92 yards after 3 quarters.
Yeah.
With the weapons they have, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Brandon Cooks, that would have been, you would have never thought that would be the case. And I think their first drive, they moved the ball a little bit and then got stopped. But after that, they couldn't even move the ball much. So it was just crazy to see, especially with all the injuries the Bills have. I mean, Micah Hyde didn't play. And CeeDee Lamb never really got a big chunk play. I was just very impressed with the defense.
Yeah.
I think they also set the tone for the day early on when Cook ran up the middle for what looked like a 2 or 3 yard gain, and they just kept pushing him into like a 12-yard gain. When I saw that, I was like, dang, these guys came to play today.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of different stuff, too. I know was it dirty? Sure, I guess technically, but kind of coming in a little bit late on certain plays like Dak. The second one, I didn't think was unnecessary roughness, but the first one I think definitely kind of was. But kind of bully ball in that sense as well. You know, you kind of set the tone like, yeah, we just don't really care if we're going to get you. It's kind of the old, just kind of the old continue to jab you a little bit in the ribs here and there to remind you that we're here. We're not going to go away easily. And I thought that set the tone because, think about, like, the Cowboys, you mentioned the weapons, right, Kyle, in a way. And in wet weather, it kind of gets neutralized a little bit. And look, CeeDee Lamb, for example, I don't think I've seen him that shook since, like, he had to play Oklahoma State in college. like it was just, like, shut him down. They shut down Tony Pollard, who, and maybe to be fair, a lot of teams have been able to kind of quell him a little bit the second half of the year anyway. But the neutralization that they're able to have, like, Taylor Rapp tied for the team lead in tackles with, Terrell Dodson. Like, you don't expect those two guys to be your leading tacklers by any means or leading the way there. And it certainly says something when those are the guys who are kind of maybe grabbing the stat headlines initially and running with it.
Pollard, or on Prescott, all game.
Including ones by Von Miller.
Yeah, so it was but the way the NFL is this year, every week something different, and this week the Cowboys on the road in a hostile environment with some bad weather just looked horrible, and the Bills looked great. So is that how things are going to look next week? Who knows? It's a week-by-week thing. And I will say this, Bills fans are celebrating like they just won the Super Bowl. If the season ended today, the Bills wouldn't be in the playoffs. There's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they are in a good spot, though, after Miami lost to Tennessee. If they didn't lose that game, then I think the Bills would be in trouble because the wild card teams keep finding ways, like the Browns, the Texans, Colts. Yeah, so right now they have a 71% chance to make the playoffs and only a 32% chance to win the division, which I kind of think is a little crazy because the Bills have 2 games the next 2 weeks that they should win without a problem, and the Dolphins have to play the Ravens and the Cowboys. If the Dolphins lose just one of those games and the Bills go 2-0, Week 18 is for the division. So
I'd like to think that'll motivate Buffalo as they go on the road next week against the Chargers team who just had 4 extra days off because they played on the Thursday night league game. Now the Chargers look absolutely horrible. They don't have
it's like they quit.
Justin Herbert. Yeah, they got totally smoked. But a lot of times in the NFL, given that extra time, given that they were just embarrassed previously on national television on Thursday, that the Bills are coming to Los Angeles, it's a trap game for the Bills, and everything that they've done to get themselves back into this position can be thrown away with a sloppy performance. Remember, this team lost to the Patriots. This team almost lost to the Giants. This team lost to the Jets. They lost at home to the Broncos. I don't take anything for granted. And any Bills fans that think that this Chargers game is already in the win column hasn't been paying attention to the NFL. Now, should the Bills be heavy favorites? Should they take care of business? Yes, but I would feel much more comfortable on Christmas morning next week knowing the Bills actually have that win in their pocket. Then you can look ahead. I feel even better about the Patriots coming to Orchard Park on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve than I do them going to play the Chargers next, what will be Saturday?
Yep.
So even less rest for the Bills, who played late on Sunday, Chargers more rest. And again, that embarrassment. Remember, the Broncos also were embarrassed in similar fashion earlier this season to Miami, and that kind of made them bounce back. And again, like I said, I don't think the Chargers are as good as the Broncos. I don't think the Chargers are going to win this game, but it's a possibility if the Bills take their eye off the prize. And the Bills have not won 3 games in a row since October 1st when they beat Miami at home after beating Vegas and Washington. So we're asking the Bills now to win 4 in a row to get into position to play at Miami for the division title, and to win the division title, that would be 5 in a row. So, and you'd like to think if the Bills win against the Chargers and the Patriots that they'll be in the playoffs, but mathematically that's not a guarantee either.
Yep. And how about this? I don't know if you guys have seen, but since 2020, the Bills are 16-2 in December and January regular season games. So at this time of the year, since 2020, they've been playing. They always play really well down the stretch. So hopefully that does continue. Like you said, I still believe they have to win out to obviously make the playoffs. And I think the division is more in reach than the wild card because, like, the Texans keep finding ways. I can't remember who they play next, but it just doesn't seem like some of these teams are going to lose many more games. But like you said, it's the NFL, and we've seen so many upsets week after week.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like if they go 2-3 the rest of the way, beat Chargers, Patriots, happen to lose to Miami, that they will still ultimately be in. Right now, they're the first team out. So, you got the Bengals, Colts, and Texans ahead of them. So, if those teams don't go 2-3, or go one, if one of those teams even goes 1-2 on the rest of the way, then the Bills would be in. If they go 2-1, you got Texans without a quarterback. I don't know the status of Stroud.
Still in protocol.
Sure, he'll probably be back now. I mean, concussion. He's
Yeah.
had, what,
Well,
10 days now? So he'll be ready for Sunday, trust me.
Everybody's different.
And the Bengals without Burrow, who've still been solid, and the Colts. The Colts are the Colts now. I mean, they lost their quarterback early in the season, and they've seemed to have gotten over that, and they're still a viable team. But out of all those teams, the Bills are the better team, I think. So I think it'll all work out.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, if you were watching the Bills, you would never think that right now they wouldn't be in a playoff spot. They look that good. But again, they can't, take their eyes off, like you said. Can't treat the opponent like, they're just going to blow by them. Because, I mean, even Dallas earlier in the year, what did they do? They lost to Arizona.
Yeah.
So you have a great point. So hopefully they continue to treat these games like playoff games. And the Chargers do struggle with the run. I read earlier that they're 17th most rushing yards per game they allow. So is this another James Cook game? And they're going to be indoors. Is this a big Josh Allen game where he throws the ball down the field, without any issue?
They should be able to do whatever they want against this terrible Chargers team. But, I mean, the Bills beat the Raiders 38-10, and the Raiders beat the Chargers 70-something to whatever. I mean, so on paper, it should be an easy win, but the NFL's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors, and when we get to maybe the actual preview stuff, we can get into it. But Chargers fire Staley, and I'm with Table. I think my outright opinion on that for what it means for the game when we get to the preview portion. But I mean, the Chargers are an interesting situation only because, like Kyle, you mentioned, right? It's indoor, but it's not like true indoor. It's like open air. There's still the weather involvement in it. I remember. Didn't they have, like, one of the basketball games in there, and they had to, like, pause it for a second because there was, like, rain coming in, so they had to, like, deal with the moisture on the court. Like, stuff can still happen at SoFi Stadium, home of the Gronk Bowl. Yeah, the way I see the playoff picture anyway, I kind of, like I have the past couple weeks, I kind of just have, like, the Browns. I see them locked into that 5 spot right now, only because they have the game up on everybody else.
Oh, they do get the Texans next. So.
Right, but
that kind of stuff will help.
At the moment, until they lose another game to put them back in.
They play Cincinnati in the final week, too.
Right.
So a lot of these teams that are right behind each other in the wild card do play each other again. Like the Colts play the Texans still. So there's going to be a lot of movement over the next 4 weeks.
But for the sake of right now, and this is why I don't like, honestly, it didn't drive me up a wall, but I'm sitting there going, like, the only routes through the division. Except it's not. Like, there's plenty of ball game left. You can't view it through one scope.
Like I say, 2-3. If they go 2-3, I think they will snag a wild card spot.
Yeah.
If they go 3-0, they win the division, which is obviously better. It gives them one of the top 4 seeds. Like right now, for instance, the Jaguars are the 4 seed at 8-6 because they would win their division, where the Browns at 9-5 are the 5th seed because, of course, the Ravens are going to win the AFC South. AFC South?
Yeah, there's a 3-way tie. The Colts, Jags, and what am I missing? Texans, all 8-6. So, and like I said, the Colts and Texans play each other in the final week. And I know what you're saying about the Browns. They look like they're going to lock in, but I'm telling you, with the opponents, they might drop down to the second wild card if they lose to the Texans and Cincinnati.
Right, but why I'm saying it the way I am is because they just have the game in the hand right now over the clog that is 4 teams all tied with the same record.
I mean, it still could change. I mean, it's not officially locked.
No,
Almost lost to the
I'm aware.
Bears.
Like,
Almost lost to the Bears yesterday. I mean, if you're a Bills fan, you're watching these games play out yesterday, and specifically that, whether it's the Jaguars game or the last night, the Browns game, all the games that involve these teams, you should be rooting against them. So Chicago almost was able to pull, I guess, what would be an upset.
Yeah, they had a 10-point lead.
Yeah, and then they had the Hail Mary pass that Darnell Mooney had. He had it, then he dropped it and kicked it.
Yep. And then the Vikings, didn't hold on Saturday to beat Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was a big one
Yep.
for the Bills fans. So I think that some of these teams will lose over the next few weeks because they're just not great teams. The Bills are a better team, just they haven't really shown it until recently. I mean, after that loss to the Eagles, things were not looking good to the Bills. They go on their bye week, they win at Kansas City, and then they crush Dallas at home. And now all of a sudden, they're back into a spot where we feel, at least as a team, when they hit the field, that we got full confidence in them that they can beat anybody.
I mean, the other thing I look at too here, the point differential aspect of it. Like the Bills have 125 net differential. The next closest is the Browns at 20 within the wild card space, and then it's 11 for the Texans, 1 for the Colts, and the Bengals -4. Like, there's an element of something's got to give in here. Like, that's the way I look at it. I've lived through it personally, living and dying by the net points and runs, and whether it's tiebreakers to whatever else, and the stuff like that always comes home to roost. Like, at the end of the day, whoever's doing the best in that sense usually comes out on top,
Yeah, and if you look back, a lot of these losses they've had, I know they've pulled out some close ones as well, like the Giants, but a lot of them are self-inflicted wounds. I mean, look at the Philly game. They're up 10 going into the fourth quarter. You look at the Broncos game, too many men on the field, like just self-inflicted wounds, and that's why they're, like you said, their differential's so high because they should be up there with the top teams in the league, but they've hurt themselves. So that's my takeaway from that stat.
It's really been offensively that's hurt them. It's nice to see them this week score 31 points, and they went to overtime and scored 37 against the Eagles, 32 against the Jets, but 20 against the Chiefs the week before, 22 against the Broncos, 18 against the Bengals, 24 against Tampa Bay. I mean, this high-powered offense just should be, for instance, Dallas was averaging 34 points per game, I think, heading into this week. It just seems like the Bills, despite looking so great yesterday, that the offense still is not as well-rounded and prolific as it should be with a guy like Josh Allen at the helm.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I don't know. It's interesting because, to me, like, they've been playing different the past month, collectively. Like, there's just something more. I don't want to say it's like they just finally realized, like, the gas pedal's on the right type thing. But, like, if we were to be sitting here like we were 5-6 weeks ago, we think about the way we were talking, where it's like doomsday scenario engaged type deal, I still don't, and this is where I do agree with you, Jim, on that regard. Like, I don't even know if we've seen the full potential yet, in a sense. But I think the one thing about yesterday that I threw out the window a little bit is just the fact, like, it was damp, wet, like, bad in theory through the year football, and they were just doing so well on the ground that it's like you literally just have to play that way in that sense,
Yeah, and they had the lead late in the second quarter, but I think we did see it, and it was the weeks 2 through 4.
Right.
38-10 against Vegas, 37-3 against Washington, 48 points up against Miami,
and that's
28.
Yeah, in that sense,
Since
yeah.
then,
In that sense, yeah.
then we haven't seen that type of explosive offense, the type of team that's, your opponent scores with 1:20 on the clock, and Josh Allen comes out and goes down and scores a touchdown to win the game.
Yeah.
It's been more of a ball control, certainly not a lot of big play type of stuff going on. and I don't really know why. And
Yeah, since Joe Brady took over, they're 3-1. Obviously, the only loss was the overtime game in Philly, and they're averaging 29.5 points per game. So not bad. They should be 4-0. That Philly game really hurts, but at least it was an NFC opponent, and it doesn't mess their conference record up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We did talk a little bit about the defense. Do want to kind of circle back to that, though, for a minute. Again, a lot of the bigger names didn't, whether because they were already out, say like Micah Hyde, or, I know he had a sack, but it was his only tackle of the game, and Jordan Phillips, it was a quieter game from a lot of the bigger names, but the other guys, quote the movie, the other guys stepped up, whether it be Taylor Rapp or Dodson. Christian Benford had an interception as well. It ended up, being a really just good game on defense. I thought, I go back to it, I thought they set the tone pretty early on with those unnecessary roughness penalties, but, sometimes I guess you have to channel that inner 1970s style of football where it's just smash mouth and we don't care if you lose a tooth or two along the way, in a sense. I really did like the way the defense looked yesterday. Kind of the first time, honestly, the first time in a couple weeks, I kind of sit here and think, damn, the defense actually looked to the point where I could trust them for sure going into next week and do the same thing.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd had a sack as well. 10.5 sacks now for him, the most by a Bill since 2016, which is pretty crazy. Earned himself an extra $1 million as well for that sack.
Hey.
So he's definitely happy about that. But yeah, with what they have and against that team, I know it was raining, but you look at the Philly game, the Eagles and Bills played in pouring rain, and they put up a lot of points.
Right.
So I get that as, I guess, kind of being an issue, but I also don't really buy that because we've seen pouring rain games before, and teams still put up points. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think too it's weird because obviously, pretty sure every NFL team now is indoor facility for the most part. I'm trying to roll the exit quick. Yeah, I think everybody for the most part at least has a indoor facility for the most part that they practice in.
Oh, practice?
Yeah. I mean, I know teams have a outdoor field still, but I think for the most part, especially this time of year, everybody's mostly indoor.
And the Cowboys were preparing for this. If you look back at some stuff on X, formerly known as Twitter, you'll see that they were dipping their hands in water buckets throughout the week, getting their receivers and tight ends ready.
Not to interrupt, but that reminds me, what the hell were the pictures of Poyer doing on the sleds for the linemen? Like,
Yeah, they put
what?
a bunch of the whole defense, the whole Bills defense, and they practice with each of the players' faces on the sleds.
Some weird psycho shit.
So
Stupid. Obviously, it worked really well.
Yeah.
yeah, and what was it? I think
Typical Cow-
Tyrell Dodson posted on Instagram and then deleted it. He
I didn't see
photoshopped it
this.
and put L on all the sleds.
Uh,
Yeah. So
hey,
I mean, after the win?
yeah, after the
Okay.
win, yeah, and then he deleted it.
hey, I mean, whatever gets to motivate you, but I know this. As a former lineman, when I played, I could kind of give two shits if the photo on the sled was a picture of a DB. I'd rather if was on the sled, I'd rather a picture of whether it's I don't know Jordan Phillips, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, even like you know what I mean. Like, hey,
Dallas should be worried. They're probably not going to win the division, and they're 3-4 on the road. They're 7-0 at home. They're just even at Dak Prescott's splits, you see that he's a much better quarterback at home. So
They're certainly not going to get home field throughout the playoffs.
yeah,
So they will at some point have to go on the road if they were. But, this is a franchise in Dallas that has a lot to prove in the postseason. So, you can't pencil them in for like the NFC Championship game. But if they did get that far, they would probably be at San Francisco or maybe at Philly. But
what did they lose by 30 to San Fran earlier this year?
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. This Dallas team, you can't really trust them right now. If you're a Cowboys fan, you should be worried.
I think Cowboys fans are perpetually worried, just for the past, since in the 2000s. I think
perpetually worried while perpetually cocky all at the same time. The amount of people, and I'm not calling anybody out because there was a bunch of them, that thought the refs cost them the game yesterday is absurd.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what are we doing here, people? Like, come on.
they got smoked from the start.
Yeah.
I went. I made some dinner about 5-10 minutes left in the second quarter, so I could finish it up during halftime and watch the whole second half. And by the time I turned on the frying pan, that game was over.
Yeah, I was about to say I was watching Red Zone before switching over to the game fully, and even at that point, I was kind of like, do I really want to do this? Like, because it wasn't like, to be fair, the late games yesterday ended up being a bit of a dud in the collective sense, but
yeah, it was fun to watch. Though the Bills crushed the Cowboys. Like as I've said before on this podcast, I'm not a huge rabid Bills fan. I root for them. They're our local team. Things are better when they're competitive around here through the late fall and winter, and so I do root for them. But I despise the Dallas Cowboys, and that was just a beautiful thing. Yesterday.
Yeah, it was. I'm not too sure about how it is, I'd say, with your age group, Kyle, but I know for me there's a number of Cowboys fans my age around here. Jim, I know the same for your age group as well.
Every age group in every community in the country. They're America's team,
But
supposedly, right?
I will say this. I know a lot of people who are Cowboys fans who made the trek up to Orchard Park yesterday and only to come back damp.
Yeah, they don't get to see him.
Spent a lot of money.
Don't get to see him too often, right?
Nope.
In person.
So, yeah, that was what we were talking about last week, I think, right? That was the first time since
2019.
19.
Well, 19 since they played each other, but yeah, I think 14 or 15 since they were in Buffalo.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, so
it's been a long time.
more power to people, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's jump into this Chargers game here. 8 p.m. Saturday on Peacock. Streaming only on Saturday night.
Streaming only?
Yep. So I'm not too sure how.
Is there another game on NBC?
There's one
I
at
think
4:30, and they're just
Yeah, it's one of those packages that
trying to make
did.
their money, probably.
Well, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess, Bills Chargers isn't the marquee game of the week.
Mike Tirico was saying last night when they went to sign off the broadcast that there's if you watch the Peacock game on Saturday, there's gonna be less commercials as the game moves on. They're doing some kind of I don't know what they're trying to do, but
They're
I guess they're gonna keep the during the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep live shots on the field, and you're gonna see
Oh yeah, so they're doing what they do for their motorsports coverage with IndyCar and NASCAR then, more or less, where
Golf does it too.
yeah, the commercials are technically either front loaded in, or they call it nonstop for NASCAR and IndyCar. I don't know what they'll call it for football, but
Yeah, they keep the commercials playing in the games in another box.
right, yeah. So I mean,
Or whatever they do.
yeah, it's either way.
I don't get too annoyed with football commercials during NFL games. They
Right.
seem to have it down pretty good where, they come when expected times. College football games are another story.
Yeah, I was about to say my main thing is always the duration of the breaks. Anyway, so the Chargers are 5-9 following a Week 15 loss versus the Vegas Raiders, 63-21. Which, by the way, a little trivia time here. That was the most points in Raider franchise history in a single game.
Really?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. 42-0 at halftime.
Yeah, so afterwards, Brandon Staley was the main person relieved of his duties, the head coach, along with the GM. They were positional coaches as well, fired following the loss. So I guess that can kind of lead in here to my theory about this game. Even though I do think the Bills win, kind of plays into the whole entire you play a little bit better for the new coach coming in, which is why it kind of caught me off guard that they made a move, considering that you only have a couple weeks left and maybe you want to just go for a better draft pick. I mean, I know that's what Washington's kind of doing at the moment, for example, but either way.
No, you got to get rid of, that was such a bad loss. And I was going to say, Chargers fans were probably calling for his head like crazy, but then I remembered that there's not any Chargers fans, so.
Yeah, they got left behind in San Diego, I'm pretty sure, unfortunately.
Here's the thing that concerns me, other than stuff we've already talked about. The Chargers right now on DraftKings are 14-point underdogs.
Yes.
The Dolphins, when they played the Titans at home, were 14.5-point favorites. And so Vegas doesn't seem, it would obviously be a huge upset. But I really expected this to be one of the bigger spreads of the season for anybody. I expected to get up there around 16-17. So, yeah, they're heavy. Bills are heavy favorites. I'll feel better when the game's over.
All right. And
they got the win.
And it's interesting too along those lines. You look at, I don't know what DraftKings has it at, but I know this morning when I looked it up, 42.5 is the over/under line.
Yeah, that's not very high.
Right, so they're expecting that to be what, like a literally 28-14 game, more or less, right?
Well, I think
Something
I
along
think in a
those
case
lines?
like this where one team is terrible, they're thinking it's going to be more like a 34-10 game. Where the Bills are going to score all their points, and then maybe the Chargers get a junk point late, but the Chargers won't be able to score, similar to with the Raiders, where the Raiders killed them, and then once the game was out of hand, the Chargers got some junk points in the second half. But there's not too much to preview here, other than the Bills just got to stay focused and realize that the Chargers are coming off extra rest and be prepared for an NFL football game. It's not an exhibition. It's not going to be you can't put that win in the win column until the game's over.
Yeah, and it's weird too previewing these games like in LA because you mentioned it, right, Jim? Like there's just no actual fans for the most part in LA that are Chargers fans. I mean, most of these games in LA end up being transient home games for the visiting team, and I don't know if the holiday is going to have an exact effect on this. I'm guessing not a ton, right? But I'm still I'm expecting Bills Mafia to pretty much be there in full force Saturday night. I have a hard time.
They outnumber the Chargers fans there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining it'd be obviously not a home game, but kind of like that quasi home game type feel, for sure. At least in
Except
that
for the
sense.
time difference and the travel and the better weather. I don't know if it'll feel like a home game, but there certainly is not a home field advantage for the Chargers.
Well, that's what I mean by that.
I just feel like it's going to be this. I don't know. I get scared over games like this just because it seems too easy, and nothing's that easy in the NFL. And it's just going to be this oddity of a game where the Bills finally can breathe a sigh of relief, and they got to go all the way across the country, play a streaming-only game on Peacock against probably a half-full stadium when they're probably wondering about how they're going to get back in time for their Christmas plans with their families. I'm really, really worried about it. Hopefully, they treat it as a get-right game for the offense as a whole. Maybe Gabe Davis can catch a couple balls, right? Maybe Stephon Diggs can get over 100 yards. I don't know. But it's a crap game, and it's a zero spot. It's a trap if they're not careful.
Yeah, I agree somewhat there, and when we get to actual scores, I'll do it there. But yeah, I mean, I look at it just from a couple different elements. I look at it from that sense, but I also look at kind of the theory about the coaching switches too. I mean, I think the guys are going to probably be a little bit more feisty, right, for a guy that they don't they don't want to quit for. I guess
another point in the pocket of the Chargers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I guess I do, but also don't view it in that traditional trap sense then. But yeah, I don't know. Kyle, where are the initial vibes you're getting from this game?
I understand, possibly about them taking this lightly, and the Chargers are playing probably for the new coach, but I truly believe this is a blowout. Do you want my score now?
You don't have to do it right now.
Let's do it. We're getting along here.
Go ahead.
All right.
I was looking at Buffalo weather here for a second for the weekend.
And by the way, it is a retractable roof, and only rain can get in on the corners of the arena. So it's going to be like great weather in there. It's no wind, no rain getting on them.
It doesn't rain in Los Angeles anymore.
So yeah, give me 33-13.
Well, wait, okay, not to interrupt, but I thought, never mind. I got the title of the song confused. It Never Rains in Southern California, which I forget the artist name now off the top of my head, but it's in a playlist of mine anyway. Back to you, Kyle.
Yeah, 33-13. Bills win this game. Don't trust Easton Stick. Even if Keenan Allen plays, we saw CeeDee Lamb, the number one receiver yesterday, pretty much get shut down until the final drive. I think this Bills team is just fired up right now. They're winning. Things are great, and it continues.
Easton Stick.
The pride of North Dakota State.
Sounds like a softball bat.
Hey, to be fair, Easton is my preferred stick when we do have the slow pitch games occur. So anyway, yeah, Kyle, I do think it's a win. I don't think it's a blowout. Here's the thing. I don't think the Bills cover, but I do think they win. I'm going to go 31-20. They win. I just feel like the Chargers will be pesky enough here. Like, I go back to this. New coach, different voice at least in command. Do we see Justin Herbert? No. We see Easton stick. But, you know, Eckler every now and then here the past couple weeks kind of has shown that he's Austin Eckler still a little bit, and I think that could kind of come into effect a little bit and stuff like that. So I think the Chargers get a little plucky, but I do think the Bills eventually just keeping it at arm's distance at length, you know, for the game itself. So 31-20, Bills win.
I like 34-10, like the score I gave early. I think I do think the Bills will win. I think that it'll be a comfortable win, but like I said, anything can happen in the NFL, and if this thing starts off slow for the Bills, or you know, there's some sort of turnover early, something to swing things San Diego's way, or Los Angeles' way. They're not the San Diego Chargers anymore.
Shout out Dan Fouts.
Yeah, but they should. The Bills should win.
Yeah,
but we all thought they'd win when they played the Patriots on October 22nd. You know,
right.
And when they opened with the Jets, or after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, especially, and or when the Broncos came to Highmark. So, and again, it's 2 days before Christmas. It's halfway across the country. The Chargers got a new coach. I don't know. We'll see.
It's the beauty of it. A couple days before Christmas, so we won't be back, obviously, Monday next week. I believe the plan would be Tuesday for when we...
Probably Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday?
Maybe. I don't know. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be in here the day after Christmas. I think we'll take another day off.
All right. Fair enough. I'm not going to complain. Either way, so we won't be here anyway for Christmas. So everybody out there, if you celebrate, Merry Christmas. Be safe. Enjoy it. Hopefully Santa brings everything you want. Bills fans, hopefully that means a win. I know, let's see. I mean, I'm going to the Cuse basketball game Thursday, but that's all I got really, I guess, on tap for the long weekend portion of things, I guess, in a sense. I don't know. I wish I was going to Boca Raton, but either way,
Thursday night Boca Raton Bowl for Syracuse.
Yeah.
And that's when the basketball team plays again, too.
Yeah, so the basketball game was supposed to be at 7, then got moved at first to 6, but because of TV, it's now at 5 o'clock to avoid conflict with the bowl game at 8. So it's chaos over in the 315 portion of things.
Huh.
Yeah, so.
Yep, great win, Buffalo.
Yeah.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah. So I guess on that note, we'll get out of here for the week. All right, guys.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Like I said, enjoy, be safe, be merry. Thanks for listening and watching. You can find Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com, the FL1 YouTube channel, and all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. We'll be back next week recapping the Bills game. Let's go, Buffalo.